And so for that reason, I'm going to tell you that, it's not my job to judge. Thank you.
El Paso has voted, and it's 55 to 45. Thank you.
The next question, can everybody hear me without the microphone? I will take it. Please give us your opinion on the expansion of Trans Mountain Road, Loop 375.
Okay.
We'll start with Abe.
All right. That's a great question. I was in the line the other day at Veg. You got a guy from the Water Commission came up to me and said, you know, TxDOT's own reports indicate that in 10 years, the expansion of Trans Mountain isn't even going to be enough. So with that fact, with that piece of information, I have to be against the expansion of Trans Mountain. I know it's going to be stifling and hurt a couple of business, well, a lot of people, a lot of business owners, but I'm against it. Trans Mountain is a great natural resource that we have, and to me, expanding Trans Mountain is simply putting a Band-Aid on the problem, not really addressing the real issues that we have. And like I mentioned before in a previous interview, you know, I've lived in Dallas, I've lived in Austin. Traffic still is not that bad here, guys. You can expect to travel from one side of the city to the other side of the city in 45 minutes either way. You cannot do that in any other cities here in Texas of our size or magnitude or larger. So I think that the expansion of Trans Mountain is simply a Band-Aid for a problem that we need some real experts to address, and not city council or downtown.
Well, this is one of my favorite topics, is Trans Mountain. Since I've been in office, and last year there were over 100 wrecks on the 3.6 miles of Trans Mountain that we're now talking about widening. Some of those, 10 of those accidents were very serious. One lady lost a leg in an accident. And there were 2 fatalities. It can't get much worse in a year. So this expansion of 4 lanes is an absolute necessity. It is also being done with developers, private money. The developers on each side are giving 10 feet. They're going to landscape it so it looks like Wrestler, the good-looking part of Wrestler. And they're going to be hike and bike trails from I-10 to the Mountain State Park continuing. Right now there aren't, so that gives access to the state park. And one of my favorite things is they're going to be monument signs, not pole signs, so it's not going to look like Alameda. I think this is a very necessary project, and it's $8 million from the state. It's not going to cost the citizens of El Paso 1 cent. So to me, it's a win-win situation. TxDOT is bringing in the money and the design, and there have been different elements in the design that have been changed. I think it will not draw away from the mountain. I think that it will let people use the mountain and enjoy the mountain park a lot more than they're able to do now. Thank you.
Expanding our Trans Mountain is one thing, but with limits. We have to protect our open spaces.
Okay. I am opposed to the expansion on Trans Mountain. I think too often we think that trying to maintain green spaces is somehow anti-business, and I don't think they have to be counterintuitive. I think that you can do both, and many metropolitan areas have already have done this. In terms of El Paso, we have to figure out what works for El Paso. I know when I moved here, Trans Mountain was one of the reasons people who came to visit me thought El Paso was a beautiful place to be. At the same time, I don't think it's going to fix the issue of infrastructure. Trans Mountain gets closed down every time there's high winds or bad weather. I don't think it's a mechanism for rerouting the considerable amount of interstate traffic coming east-west or west-east through the United States. I would like to see, and it's not within the purview of City Council per se, that discussions intrastate, to talk to New Mexico, to try and look at places like the Anthony Gap and rerouting up through 375. Because what we really need to do is get the traffic off of I-10, but not ruin the beautiful vistas that we have here. And that is my position.
Very good. Paso Electric Company, offsetting the expenses they incurred with rate hikes, presumably under the guise of avoiding utility loss in the future?
Well, first of all, it was a horrible situation, almost a tragedy, and I think it could have been avoided. The water company, PSB, says it's because their electricity was cut off. Well, I have a real opinion about the electric company. First of all, I think when it was in bankruptcy in the mid-1990s, El Paso should have bought it, the citizens of El Paso, like we own the water company. Austin owns their electric company, but we didn't. And this may be another opportunity that we should really consider buying the electric company. They have not changed their board since the mid-90s when it was in bankruptcy. They're very highly paid. They don't live, most of them don't live in El Paso. They're very out of touch. But as the rate hikes go, if they want a rate hike, it has to go to the PUC, the Public Service Commission in Texas. So they can't just automatically do that. And there will be a lot of discussion. There's a lot of investigation going on right now. The city, the state, everybody's looking at the electric company. And these rolling blackouts really did damage people's homes, tore up their lives, and I really feel that we need to get hold of the electric company. They need to listen to us, or we need to buy it. Now, this would be a big expense, and it would go to the public for a vote before we could do anything like that. But I hope people will really take it into consideration in the near future.
Danny?
The electric company, and thank goodness for the newspaper report, so I don't have to blame myself for this information, paid itself about 80% of its dividends, 80% of its revenue towards dividends, and only about 15 or 20% towards maintenance. That tells you right there that they were not ready. I don't care if it's only 10 degrees or 5 degrees or whatever they were saying. Whenever you use 80% of your profits and your maintenance doesn't measure up, that is wrong. There wasn't enough money spent on maintenance and preparation. They need to be responsible for that.
I'm opposed to a tax rate increase. I think that the recent freeze definitely gave us a very good perspective how everybody seems to be running independently without any communication amongst themselves. And I hope that that was a wake-up call, both for City Council in terms of having some accountability from these agencies. Secondly, though, my understanding is an audit is coming down, and I think we need to look at this audit and see exactly what happened with the electric company and the water company, because I can't profess to understand all the intricacies of that situation. El Paso Electric has had a monopoly in this town for quite some time. And if there was any mechanism for trying to lift that monopoly and putting this up for bid, again, I think that would be an excellent solution. We have competition in all the other sectors that provide us with services. We need competition in that area as well. Thank you.
I too am opposed to a tax increase or rolling that on to taxpayers. We were seriously unprepared for this to happen. And what I don't understand is how other cities, following the same news reports and the same predictions and forecasts, were a little better prepared than El Paso was. I attended a PSB meeting that discussed exactly what had happened, and you know, some instrumentation clusters froze, and that's what burned up the pumps. That was pumping the water up into the fill tanks, and that's what ruined a lot of things. That's what destroyed a lot of water lines, created a lot of havoc. The rolling blackouts on top of that just absolutely devastated several hundreds of homes, and you know, the entire city of El Paso. But you know what I don't understand is how we'll have rolling blackouts and we'll have people not go to work, but you know what, the buses were still working. There were a lot of different people that were still on call. Why did City Hall shut down? Why weren't our civic leaders not accessible, not prepared for something like this? Why wasn't there a better emergency disaster plan? Why weren't we better prepared? It seems to me like everybody lives in this insulated and isolated cocoon, and no one wants to talk to each other. And why? It's a great question. And as soon as I find out, you know, you all will find out too. But there's got to be better communication amongst all our major utility boards. Acquiring the utility companies, I think it's a bad call. That just means bigger government to me. But that's just me. I think we can have a smaller government, privatize as much as we can, or open it up to bids for different companies and things of that nature. But that's just going to add to the bureaucracy downtown that we're trying to get rid of. So, thank you.
Oh, okay, Mark. Okay, Manny, you start off with this question. Please give us your opinion of how and if the police department should process law violators who are also in the United States illegally.
The first thing we have to understand is the condition of our police department. I'm all in favor of enforcing laws, but the reality is we are about 200 agents short of what we should have. We have about 1,100 police officers. We need to have about 12 to 1,300 according to the FBI investigation, recommendations, etc. Because of that, we need to first and foremost let the chief of police answer that question a lot more precisely than I can. But when we're short of personnel, it doesn't sound like a good idea.
Having been a practicing lawyer in this town for 12 years, I can tell you that the resources we have in our jails, the resources we have with our sheriffs and our police department are worn thin right now. I don't believe it. Immigration is a federal issue. It is something that is mandated, and it's through the Constitution. And the Constitution indicates how we prosecute issues regarding immigration. If we have our El Paso Police Department and Sheriff's Department using their very worn thin resources to try and to take in undocumented who have not committed a crime into our jail system, it means we are letting out other individuals. And trust me, when I am in court and I see people who have DWIs getting a sentence of 2 years, and they get out in 6 months because there is no space in that jail, and there is no money for that jail system, I don't think we need to be focusing on other issues. So unless it's a funded mandate, I'm most absolutely opposed to using our city resources for this matter.
You know what? I think that maybe we could cut some other areas of spending. And you know what? I think it's a safety issue. I do think it is important that our law enforcement does ask and inquire about what's going on with the people that they do pull over. You know, what if they pull over Chapo Guzman or someone like that, or someone that's on an FBI most wanted list, and we could save hundreds, if not thousands of lives by asking one simple question. You know what? And if you're driving here in the city, I think the police department has a right to ask your citizenship. You know? I guess clapping, I lost my train of thought. But, you know, there are some departments, some things that get funded that we throw way too much money on. Let's put more money in our police department. Let's put more money in our fire departments and our EMTs. You know, those guys have to take a day off a month unpaid. You know what? But McGoffin looks nice. They have pretty street signs, lamp posts, and things like that. How many jobs, how much more money can we give to our really, truly vital services here in El Paso by doing away with some of the fluff? Thank you.
Well, first of all, I want to remind everyone that El Paso is the safest city in the United States. It is. And it's got a, well, that's what the figures say. But I'll tell you what, we spend 60% of all the taxes on the police and fire department. Okay, and the other 40% goes to your garbage service and all those kind of things. So the budget's cut pretty thin and on pretty thin ice. And I agree that taking illegal aliens in will just crowd the jails. It's a federal issue. There are